Hey Mary.
Hello. Hello. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. George.
Good morning.
Mhm.
Hey, Marty, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, great, thanks.
We don't have quite have a quorum yet, so we're just
Yeah.
waiting here. Just turned 10, I think, depending on which clock you're using.
Right. My computer clock says no, not quite.
Okay.
I have 9:59. Oh, there's Rob.
So do we have a quorum?
I don't
Not
think so.
quite.
Not quite. Simpson might be off today. He is. Yeah, he indicated ahead of time that he wasn't going to make it. Okay.
And Amber is not in.
Uh-oh. I haven't heard from
Or if
Trina.
Chris is coming in or not.
Yeah, we only have three right now.
Let's see what Trina.
Hey, you're up to
There are
4,
four. What's the quorum? Five or six?
5.
Okay.
Good Friday, maybe people are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last week was a problem too. So, um, yeah, for quorum,
Right.
So
it's the
we
spring break.
Yeah, it's true.
we
We don't
have
have an alternate at Sparks.
Yeah, because Rob's an alternate. Does he count for quorum?
Yeah.
If he's an alternate, he does.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
is.
but we don't have one.
We're at quorum now. Mara just did
Amira,
it as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Are you all right if I start the meeting? All
Yep,
right.
recording has already been started.
All right. Good morning. This Friday, April 3rd, 2026. The time is currently 10:01 a.m. and I am calling to order this meeting of the Truckee River Flood Management Authority Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Can we please have a roll call and establishment of quorum?
Yes. Janelle Thomas,
Here.
Chris Bronzik, Rob Beadart,
Here,
Ashley Elson, Trina
no
Magoo,
longer.
Mary Horvath,
Here.
Donna Noel, Zachary Carter, Donnie
Present.
Gilman, Robert Weimer,
Here,
Amber Sosa, John Simpson, Amira Morrow,
Here.
Chris Fritzen, Kathy Canfield. All right, you have a quorum?
And Chris Bronzik is on the line now
Gotcha. Okay.
from Washoe County. All right. Thank you, Marty. Item number 2 is public comment. During this comment period, any person is invited to comment on any topic, regardless of whether it is listed on this agenda or not. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the agenda item is opened or the matter is specifically listed on a future agenda. Those who wish to comment on an item that has been listed on this agenda may, if they prefer, comment when that item has been opened for consideration by the board and before action is taken. Comment must be made as described above and is limited to 3 minutes per person. Are there any public commenters? I don't
Seeing
see
none.
hands raised. Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. Moving on to item 3, approval of the TAC agenda item or agenda for Friday, April 3rd, 2026. Do we have any requests for edits, moving around of items or anything like that? If not, I will take a motion to approve. Rob, I see your mouth moving, but you are muted.
Oh, I was just, oh, that Rob.
Oh,
Not you.
Rob Bedart. Yes.
Okay, I will motion the approval of the TAC agenda for Friday, April 3rd, 2026. Rob Bedart.
Do I have a
Yes.
second?
I second Mary.
Mary Beth. Thank you, Mary. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Item 4, discussion and possible action to approve the draft minutes of the January 30th, 2026 TAC meeting. Has everyone had a chance to peruse those meeting minutes? And are there any suggested edits or modifications? If not, I'll take a motion.
All right, I'll motion to approve the draft minutes of January 30th, 2026. Rob Bedart.
Thank you, Rob.
Hi, this is Trina. Sorry, I'm late. I'm here, present. I will second.
Thank you, Trina. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, so item number 5, announcements by George Robison.
Okay, I do have a few announcements. We are still working on the Wadsworth Bridge. It is scheduled to be pulled and then replaced this summer still. There's been a lot of pre-work done already, but the big work will be in June after school's out, so we don't, as promised, we don't interrupt kids going to school on the bridge. So that is still coming. The second thing is we are still working on the Vista Narrows final design. They're making some progress, but there's really nothing to report yet. We are starting to even look at the some things about the basically value engineering, and we even trimmed off an estimated 400,000 on one thing yesterday. So that was kind of made me feel good at the end of the day. But then that's still moving on and everything. I will be talking about Rock-McCarran here in a minute. But I think that's about all I have. Oh, one other thing. We are really working hard on really updating our gauge network. So we have a gauge network that's used by the Weather Service and others, used for emergency planning. We've done a lot of work on it over the last year, and we've replaced like tipping buckets with weighing gauges. We've replaced things that can work in the snow now, so that we don't have issues when it snows, like the tipping bucket freezes and stuff like that. So we've done a lot. Our new person, Matt, has done a lot of work on this. So that's continuing to evolve as well. So, and we are looking at some new sites for trying to get permits for this summer on Forest Service land, especially on Bronco Creek, which is an ungauged stream that can put in up to 3,000 CFS during a flood, which that's pretty significant. as a lower river tributary. Yes, Trina.
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch what creek.
It was Bronco.
Bronco. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we're
And
looking.
where is that located?
That is in the Truckee. It comes in the Truckee River Canyon. It's kind of
Oh.
it's a little bit west of Hunter Creek, if you guys know where that is.
Mhm.
All right. So that's all I have.
Any other announcements from any of the members? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 6. Consideration and discussion of the scope of services proposed by HDR for the Sparks Flood Bank Flood Project. Geez, say that 10 times fast. Feasibility and alternatives study. So the scope of services proposes a maximum total contract amount of $887,841 over 2 years. George, do you want to kind of walk us through this?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Should have a screen up with a title slide.
You do.
Everybody's seen that? Okay.
Yep.
So before I get started on this, I want to say this, that we just got these scopes in midweek or early to midweek this week. Had to do a little bit of go-arounds with them. I did not have a chance to give you guys the scopes for review yet. So I am not expecting any kind of decision. It does say for possible action. Well, now it's impossible action because I want to let you guys see the scopes first. But I do want to introduce them to you and some of the things that we saw and kind of the outcome of the meetings that we had regarding the teams and everything else to kind of warm you up to a review of these scopes for these two projects. And we will also be getting you a scope for the airport project probably in the next 10 days to 2 weeks. So by the time of the next meeting, we can evaluate all of these three and make a judgment on them, whether this scope looks solid, let's move ahead. But this will give you guys, everybody, a good idea of what these works entail right now, what the size of these engineering contracts are, and what it's going to cover. So I wanted to give you that as a kind of a head start on some of the reviewing. So the first one is the North Bank levee, which we were talking about here. And if you look at it in red, this is a very, like it encompasses almost half the length on the North Bank here. So it's a very long project, has a lot to it. It needs continuous embankment of some sort, either a levee or a flood wall to keep the flood out. So it's a long, continuous either a levee or a flood wall. We are strongly moving towards levee. There are a couple of places, and we'll find this out in the analysis, where it's extremely tight. And that would be like right here by Tum Wharf. You have Tum Wharf right up against it, and then you have other infrastructure right up against it. That's going to be real tough right there. But other places, we do have some room to move around and build levee. So we'll be working through that, and we'll have some more details here in a minute. But it's key to figure out how we can go about this. Past renditions of this have all been like one of them was just 100% flood wall the whole way, and it was extremely expensive. Other looks, I've done some estimates on this where I've done levee most of the way, and but we need to get a good comprehensive analysis of what our options are and how are they relative to each other before we move forward. So we had the design workup and information for this stretch prior. It has the least information of all these projects. So prior to Vista Narrows, what's nice is Vista Narrows has information from roughly about here where what is it called? North Truckee Drain came in all the way down to down here. So probably about a quarter of it. We do have quite a bit of new information as of about 2019, 2020. And we even have designs for flood wall and levee. So we can build off that, but all this area here, we have very little information. So anyways, that's kind of the context of this, where we're at. And of course, this protects one of the biggest impact areas that we have. If you look at our, last month I did the strategic plan or gave a presentation on it. The most damage is in this area of all areas. And this Meadows area comprises about 80% of the flood damage, but this comprises over half of that damage. So this protects this area. So a lot of economic import here on getting this right. So we had a selection process for this. Many of you were involved in the selection process. We had a request for qualifications that came out in early January. We had 6 statements of qualifications that came in for this project from different consulting teams. There was a lot of work put into this. Many of these teams walked. One of them, we drove the entire length of it. Some of them, we drove half the length of it. I mean, we did a lot of pre-work to give them a really good idea of what was involved here so that they can make strong statement of qualifications with basically, it was really important for them to have a good framework or an approach inside their statement. And that made up about 50%, 40 to 50% of the evaluation points is how strong was their approach, because it reflected what their understanding was and how they would approach this. And so that's what we evaluated them on, along with their qualifications, etc. And we had the review team. We had representatives from Sparks too, Reno, Washoe County, TRFMA, and the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. And we scored all the SOQs. And in scoring one SOQ, one statement of qualification, was rated number 1 by everyone, which is rare. Usually one reviewer will say, oh, that team was better. But in this case, everybody rated one SOQ number 1. And it was significantly higher on average than the second highest score. This team was chosen for negotiation of the scope and the contract in early March by unanimous vote. And we did not have a subsequent interview for this one. We did for the other 2 designs, but not for this one. We just went ahead and picked that one based on the superior statement of qualification they had. So the winning team was a combination of HDR, Atkins, and Northwest Hydraulics. And there aren't others. I'm sorry about that. Actually, there are others on this one. Sorry. And members of this team had experience both upstream on the Rock-McCarran project that's currently being done and downstream on Vista Narrows, which made it a very formidable team to beat because they had all that information in their hip pocket, so to speak. The SOQ described an alternatives and feasibility study to better understand how to proceed in design. The proposed scope follows this, and that's what we want you to review and make sure you're not seeing something, especially, every reviewer actually, but we just want to make sure that we're not missing something on this scope. And that's why we're going to, after the meeting, hand those out for review, and then they'll be available to the public at the next meeting in May. So, that's the plan for today. If we would have got them out sooner, we could have made a decision on them, but I'm not comfortable with that without you guys looking at them. Okay, well, the highlights of this scope, it's a feasibility and alternative study. The cost overall is $887,000 and change. And there's the key team members that were already mentioned. Along with them, Robison is doing surveying, WBS is doing some environmental, and TMS looks like a kind of a one-person firm that does public relations. And all of these are very locally based, which is nice. All of these, except for NHC, has a local office. So it's going to be, and even them, they are very close by. They're not in Reno, but nearby. The duration of the contract is 2 years if accepted. The schedule is 14 months. The key outputs will be a data gaps analysis, design criteria, alternatives development of development, the evaluation of the alternatives, and selection of the alternative for further design. So this is what the team looks like in terms of a org chart. Mitch Blum, who has a lot of experience on the river, he helped us with the physical map revision project, for instance, is the manager. Brian Janes, who is actually the manager of the Vista Narrows project, is the deputy. We have some really good senior advisors on this team. Gary Bruner actually wrote the original HEC RAS and I believe HEC HMS. I've met him a couple of times. He's a very well thought of person in the business. So, anyways, really strong upper team here, and they're really good in their disciplines with having Atkins doing the civil design work, having HDR doing the H&H, the hydrology and hydraulics, good, strong people on geomorphology with the Northwest Hydraulics who are doing the geomorphology on the Rock-McCarran site. And so they have a lot of previous information that they can apply to this one. So what I want to say here is the components of the scope has, like what you'd see normally, project management. There is an initial inventory of existing conditions. Note that it's 54,000. That's really low. The reason why is they have a lot of this information already because of Vista Narrows and Rock-McCarran. The data gaps will be what more do we need beyond this? And they're anticipating that the gaps, the field reconnaissance will be 106,000. Now that could change. We could have gaps that we don't know about, but they have a fairly good idea because of the previous work they've done. Regulatory review is just reviewing the regulatory criteria that will go into the design criteria. That's a minimal cost. The big costs are the design criteria, the alternatives development, the alternatives evaluation, because those are kind of the meat of this project. And then finally, there's public outreach and then QA/QC, which is really important on a project like this to get other perspectives on what assumptions they're making, because it is a feasibility and alternatives analysis. So their schedule is approximately a 14-month schedule. We do have check-ins with the TAC, and that's really important on these bigger items here to make sure that we're staying on track and we're doing what we need to do. We also have check-ins with our staff, the TRFMA staff as well, on a more frequent basis, pretty much monthly. And then they have internal checks once every 2 weeks. This is a team, not just one internal work of just HDR people. So they do have to coordinate these things carefully. So one of the biggest things is the alternative development, and what we have talked about, like when we've walked this thing with different people with different ideas, we've kind of seen 4 primary alternatives, and their scope reflects that, as well as their work that they did for the approach on the statement of qualifications. These will be conceptual designs. The costs will be more useful as relative to each other rather than actual costs that we're going to really dig in on. What I mean by that is, what is one cost of one alternative versus the other alternative, which may not actually be the real cost because we're not doing super great calculations on it yet, but we are trying to get an idea of what they are against each other, so that we can make distinguishing choices between them. So these are the alternatives that we're talking about. And this is, we could modify these. This is something I want you guys to think about if you review this and get comments back to me. Alternative A is a new levee alignment, which would necessitate doing North Bank easements and purchases. That could be very expensive because there are buildings involved. Alternative B is a new levee alignment necessitating Truckee River realignment south, which would also require some purchases, and it could include, because it's moving the river south, it would include habitat enhancement as well. Alternative C is to retain the existing alignment and really forcing in levee and flood wall design. Alternative D is a hybrid, where in some places you keep the alignment the same, some places you move it, some places you move it south. It would be a mixture, but the idea would be to optimize cost and minimize property impacts, easements and purchases, but also maybe get a little bit of enhancement, etc. In my opinion, that's probably where it goes, but you've got to do the analysis and figure out the details of it. And you have to be able to compare back to these other alternatives, along with a no action alternative that I did not put there, which is a given. You always do the no action alternative as well. Okay, so what that would lead into is an alternatives analysis report. And they will be looking at a lot of different things. If you get into their scope, they're looking at the hydraulics of this, how different things would affect hydraulics, how it would affect cost, especially how it would affect which stakeholders. Some stakeholders, like along here on this north bank right here, they're not necessarily wanting to sell or do anything. The university here will have, if we go that way, we'll definitely want to have a lot of discussion and how much money and things like that. But these guys probably don't want to mess with their businesses. So we've got a lot of work to do here to figure out what we can do without having to go into buildings or go into properties when it's really tight. So there's just going to be a lot of these criteria. Like I said, there will also be geotechnical concerns as well. Like what kind of situation do we have here in terms of seepage? What kind of things will we have to do to build? You can even build a hybrid where you have a part levee and a small wall, or actually a small section, very small, on Rock-McCarran. We're talking about something like that because we really don't want to get into walls. We don't want to have big walls, but we need to really, shake this out and see what these different alternatives cost and what were the implications of them. So once again, getting back to the scope, 887,841. We put this talk up, and I will be afterwards sending the TAC core people only, because it's drafts, the scopes for your review via email. But for now, these are actually up on the website. We're going to put them up on the website and the PowerPoint. And I guess I'm going to open this up to questions. Any questions?
I don't have any specific questions, but are you interested in us making a motion to table this and complete our review over the next month before the next TAC meeting, before we take action on this, or do we need a motion on this?
Well, you're the chair. If you want a motion on it, I don't object to that at all. I think
Okay,
that's
I
great.
think that would
Yeah.
probably keep it clean.
Yeah.
George, I have a question about the timing. So this has to be approved by both the TAC and the board, correct?
Well, not necessarily the TAC, but I'm asking you to approve it. We
Gotcha.
don't have to, but it's a better idea to do it that way. I just want more eyes on this, okay? So I want you guys to look it over and be okay with it.
So if we
Especially on this one, the Sparks people and the
oh, yeah, for
PLPP.
sure.
Okay.
But so the timing will be we'll look at it and approve it, and then it'll go to the board.
In May, yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So if anybody's interested in making a motion on what Janelle said, that would be great. Or, you know, if you don't think it's a good idea, that's fine too.
Do we want to just make a motion to table it till our reviews for the next TAC meeting? Is that how we want to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Mike. This is Mike. That would be appropriate, probably the cleanest way to do it.
Okay.
Is that your
Well,
motion, Rob?
I guess I will make the motion to table this item until we can have review for the next TAC meeting.
Thank you.
I will second.
Thank you, Trina. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment before we take a vote?
Just
Seeing
thank you
none.
for giving us the opportunity to review it in more depth, George. Appreciate that.
Thanks
Yeah.
for reviewing it.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. All right, so those in favor of tabling until our next TAC meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. All right, now on to the next item 7, which is the review of the scope of services for JUB Engineers for the Truckee Meadows Water Authority Flood Project. And that is in a proposed amount of 1.799 million plus or minus. George, do you want to take over the next presentation?
Yeah, and you should see a picture of where the
Yes.
TMWA inlet is on the front, if that's what's going on. That's good.
That is correct.
Okay, so once again, this is going to be a lot like what I said about the North Bank. We got this in during the week this week. We did go do a little bit of going back and forth, and so I really wasn't comfortable giving it to you on like Wednesday night and saying, "Hey, we're going to do this on Friday." So that wouldn't work. So it's very similar situation in terms of process. So with that, I'll go ahead and get into this. And so when we're talking about TMWA up here, this is where this is, the yellow right there. TMWA, it's interesting. It's very short, obviously, compared to this one, but there's a lot going on here. We have a bridge that possibly has capacity issues. We have very tight area up near the bridge at TMWA. In fact, I have a slide on that. I don't want to go into all that there, but it is a very tight area. It is a place that will likely need a combination of flood wall in a few places and mostly levee. And then we will also have to work closely with GSR on the other side because to ensure that the water levels do not conflict and create issues. With all these projects, we're trying to design them to actually meet the 117, the 117-year flood, which was the 1997 flood with freeboard. So the colony's levee and flood wall was built to withstand a 1997 flood and have 3 feet of freeboard. We want all the others to have that level of protection, in case, people keep saying that the flood is bigger. So if you do another calculation, maybe the flood's a little bit bigger. We don't want to be surprised by that and say, oh, you don't really protect the 100-year flood anymore. We're trying to go a little bit bigger so that we're not caught like that. So anyways, that's what, but we're designing to match that on all these others. We're not just saying, oh, 100-year. No, we're saying 117 plus 3 feet. Okay, so the overview of the selection process. We had a request for qualifications out in early January. There was once again 6 statements, different teams, but different, six qualifications. And once again, a lot of work went into these. People were walking the site with us. We had TMWA staff out there with us, walking and talking with them as well. And we had great cooperation from TMWA on this, with their engineering staff and their operations staff. And the review team was from Sparks, Reno, Washoe County, TRFMA, TMWA, and there were 6 members. And in the scoring, there were 2 statements that had higher average than the other 4, but there was no real consensus on an overall winner. So what we did is we took the top 2 and interviewed them, and after a unanimous vote by the review team to go ahead and interview 2. After the interviews, one team consistently gave better answers to questions and distinguished themselves for the project, and the winning team was voted unanimously after the interview. So that's how we got to here with the selection process. And like I said, this was we put out the statements. It is a very competitive process, and very happy with the response that we got there. The winning team ended up to be JUB, Northwest Hydraulics, and Crawford Geotechnical. The members of this team have experience downstream and upstream, just like the one on the last team. They have Rock-McCarran downstream, and members of the team have Riverside upstream for this project. So they got it surrounded. The SOQ asked for an approach to produce a 30 and 60% design. The scope outlines the steps and costs involved, including reconnaissance for gaps, alternatives analysis, and steps of a conventional 30 and 60% design. So that is what they had in their approach. Their scope does mirror that to some degree, or does really actually mirror it. So the cost here, total with contingency, they had a contingency in here too, was roughly 1.8 million. You already said the key team members. The contract is 2 years. The schedule is a very ambitious 7.5 months. Call me skeptical, but if you get it done 7.5 months, I'm gonna be real happy. Key outputs: alternatives analysis, concept layout, and 30% design, refinement, and 60% design. So these are the key kind of touch points or milestones on this project. And once again, nice little cover there. And what was cool about one of the team members is the Northwest Hydraulics had a hand in designing this. So they had good familiarity of the site, and that was a big selling point for them. So let's get into the issues. I talked about this briefly, and I said I'll wait till this slide to really get into this. This is a small site, but it has a lot of issues. For instance, we don't want to do anything to cause problems with this inlet and with this, because this is acting like a dam to back up water for an inlet. And it's done with steps, and it's a design, what we call a designed rapid. And so we don't want to do anything to undermine this to get more capacity under the bridge, which is immediately downstream. So here's where this is. Here's the bridge immediately downstream, and it may have a capacity problem, because if it has a capacity problem, water will back up here and go down the street over here and cause problems, and go into GSR and cause problems. So we need to have adequate capacity to make sure this whole thing works right. Here we also have, look at how tight this is. This is a canal. The trail is right there, and then the river's right off the picture. So you've got this, the trail, the river, and it's very tight there. This is the area for a short distance. You're going to probably have to have a flood wall. There's just no room. So anyways, this would have to be bolstered. It's not a very high wall that would have to be built here, but there is going to be a wall. And so you're going to have to check and see if you can build off this or build an eye wall next to it or something. But it required some structural expertise as well as geotechnical expertise at this location. Then as you go down, it is still pretty tight. Along there's a pond here, and that's a treatment pond, so we're protecting that. Then you get into where it can transition into a levee. There's quite a bit of space, and we can do a lot of that along here, all the way down to the bridge. This goes, okay, to the Gregg Street Bridge. This area down here is something more with the airport project. This is a mobile home park, etc. But the project ends right here at Gregg Street. So this is what you have here. And like I said, you've got GSR right across the street here. And you just have, like you can see here under the bridge, there isn't a lot of capacity there. There's a lot of built up material and stuff. So can we take some of that out without undermining basically the design rapid that's holding back water for that canal? And there's a secondary channel on the other side. So it's a very complicated hydraulic problem under that bridge. And there's also a lot of utilities in here. So there's just a lot of things going on here. So anyways, that's kind of some of the issues that you can see with this. And it creates a really diverse disciplinary team that you need to cover all these different issues. Okay, and that's what this organizational chart reflects. You have the project manager, Shane Dyer, who is also the project manager of the Rock-McCarran project, and that gives him a lot of credibility, in that he's already been doing a project that's, in my opinion, more difficult than this one, but and bigger. And so he's got some experience here with the river. They have projects up and down the river. They're one of the few consultants that has just tons of experience on the river. And then we have different people as well. We have the civil design lead. We have the QA/QC people. And so that really creates a strong network at the upper end. And then you have all the disciplines, which, we have survey, we have geotechnical analysis, which is the Crawford people, which are working on Rock-McCarran. So they already have a lot of information on the site that they can build from, because they are right next door, basically. And then we have levee and terracing design team, and they've done a lot of the levee. They've done a lot of levee work on Rock-McCarran already. The geomorphology people, this is that same Northwest Hydraulics team that's worked on Rock-McCarran and will work at the South Bank. And they have a lot of experience on the river. Like I said, that's the same company that did the inlet for TMWA. So a lot of experience there. And then, of course, the hydraulics, they've got a lot of people involved that are, Jeff Weigel has helped us a lot with Rock-McCarran and on the Wadsworth project downstream on the river. And then the aquatic repairing ecology, these are a lot of the same team members that were working on Rock-McCarran. And then we have a good, strong structural engineer, which will be needed on this project because of those tight areas where you're up against the bridge and the river and the trail all right there, and how to fit something in. So the project is broken out into 10 components. The biggest component by far is, of course, the 30 and 60% drawings and civil work that has to be done. But there is quite a bit of work in the geotechnical engineering. The bridge itself, where we're, looking about some capacity, and of course, all the levee work needs a lot of geotechnical engineering done. And that's a big chunk of this as well, at $435,000. That the hydraulic modeling, there's going to especially in the bridge with scour analysis, etc., is a little bit more than you would usually see on a small project like this. And the geomorphology has to be looked at very carefully too, for stability with the bridge. The bridge is a complex situation, and if you do anything with the bridge, you got to ensure that you're not destabilizing something. That the footings on that bridge are not deep; they're shallow, so you really got to be careful with scour analysis. So that's why a lot of that costs so much. Don't really have any other comments about this. I'm just introducing this to you. Like I said, like the other one, we'll give you the scope so that you can evaluate this in total. There's a lot of text on that. Here's the schedule, very aggressive schedule. But it is, it is real. There is possible to get this done in 7.5 months. Well, I'll just have to see. And then, when we're talking about some of the big things, the alternative development is always important. Like, how are we going to increase capacity under the bridge? How are we going to put in a wall near the bridge? How, where exactly are these levees going to be located? It's not as involved as, say, Rock-McCarran is, and definitely not as involved as the North Bank levee, but there is some alternatives that have to be looked at. And so we'll be leveeing flood wall construction, bridge capacity mainly. And then early on, look at those multiple variations, pick the one that's best and carry it forward to 30% and 60%. And the other big thing too, besides the civil design work, is the geotechnical. And there is going to be, we're going to have to really be careful with this, really make sure. Some of the records aren't the best sometimes. So we want to make sure we have a good record on this. And make sure we understand the groundwater levels, make sure we have good levee design cross sections. And just for the, insurance certification, you have to do quite a bit of work on those just to show that you are taking into account the seepage and problems that you have. And then we will also have the geotechnical memo, which will, bring everything together, the new exploration, the existing information, etc. But this is going to be a big part of this because of how tight everything is and the fact that the bridge, it doesn't have necessarily deep footings. So this is kind of the final slide. It's really the same as before. It comes out to about 1.5 million and change when before the contingency. With the full contingency, it comes out to almost 1.8 million. It is this is something I want to really look at carefully and make sure that we're covering everything we need to cover. But on the other hand, we're not over covering things as well. So that's something that we can look at carefully here in the coming couple of weeks on this. So I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
What happens if, do you think that they would be willing to modify their aggressive schedule to become a little bit more realistic in, your opinion?
Well, I mean, they could, but then again, if they have the realistic schedule, or aggressive schedule, I'm kind of, like, yeah, I'm not really.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, go for it. But if it's 9 months or 11 months, I'm not like losing my mind or something.
Okay.
George, you're gonna have before the 30 and 60%, you're gonna have selection on the alternative, right?
Yes.
Through the TAC and through the board.
Yeah, and I didn't show the stop points like I did on the other one, but there are definite evaluation points. One of them is alternatives. Well, obviously, the 30 is another one, and then the 60.
Are they taking that into account in their schedule?
Yes. Believe it or not. I know if some of them are on the I'm sorry if I'm making fun of you, consultants. I mean, they're friends, but it is an aggressive schedule.
I do think we were a little aggressive there. I think on the On the schedule piece, you'll see that we say the work itself will be 3 months for each, like for the 3 months for the 30% design and 3 months for the 60% design. I imagine there's probably a number of months of review in there that we probably underestimated getting it to all the different agencies and reviewing. So I'm feeling a little sheepish right now with my over ambitious schedule. I apologize for that.
That's good to be ambitious. You see how many times I've had to push this thing back because of the permitting issues with the Corps. I mean, I feel like an idiot at this point. Well, all the times I've pushed it back. So,
Well, I think I'd like to suggest that we do a similar motion to the last agenda item, just to table this and then hear it at the next TAC meeting so that we can digest it.
Does somebody else want to make a motion, or
I'll do
Make a
it.
motion.
Oh, go, Mary.
Go, Mary.
I make a motion to table the review of the scope and fee to next TAC meeting. Or yes, next TAC meeting.
I second that motion, Rob Beater.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Mary. Any further comments or anything? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling until the next TAC meeting to make a final recommendation, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. That motion carries unanimously. All right. Moving on to item 8 on the agenda, update on the progress of the Rock-McCarran Flood Project 30% design. George, you are going to give us an update, it looks like.
yeah, this isn't a slideshow. It's just an update on where we're at with it. The team has come out with a lot of work on the initial 30% design. There are some things that we saw right away and we're like trying to look at more carefully and fix. And so that one too is getting put, it's the pushback day. It will get pushed back probably until we'll have another probably a May TAC meeting on this, on Rock-McCarran 30%, a May community outreach workshop on Rock-McCarran, and then a June board meeting to approve the 30% so that they can move on to the 60%. And I've seen some of the design. There's been a tremendous amount of work done. There are literally 170 sheets or something like that. There's a lot of stuff been done. And so they've made a lot of progress, but I don't think it's really ready for us to review in 2 weeks. I don't. So I think it's better for us to push that back. That way it gives us time to really honestly cover these proposals, which we also have the Reno airport that will come up. And then we will do that in May and June. So I'm excited about it. There's a lot of work's been done there, a lot of refinement, and it should be really good. And it seems, a lot of the things, the reviews outside stuff is really on schedule. It's just we're not ready for a TAC review in say 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Mary, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, my question is just the civil or public works at Reno and Nathan from Parks, who's on the call, want to meet. Should we around the 30% submittal? When do you guys think it's a good time to do that, George and Shane?
I think that once we have our internal review and we're kind of, okay, this looks okay for further review, that's when we do it. And in terms of the roads, I think they want the 30% before we do it. That's like your traffic people. And NDOT wants it at 30% before we do a encroachment permit under the bridge, is my understanding. And we've already been doing a lot of work on under the bridge with the bats and stuff like that. A lot of coordination already going on. So those are the two that we're we're waiting on the 30% to really engage with. And for the park and stuff, I think once we get a solid review copy together, I think we should talk, bring it
Okay.
out to you guys and talk.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. All right. Item number 10, committee member comments, requests, and future agenda items. I will start with, so George, can you explain what the airport project timing looks like for that proposal for scope of services? Should we anticipate seeing that on the next agenda for approval? Or do you have that documentation for us to review in the interim?
It is not ready yet.
Okay.
They are expecting to have it done. This is, expectation. They're working with subs and everything else. But I'm expecting to see something on that next Friday. And so that following week, we can get out a draft for you to review. And so when we have it there, we'll be ready to review that because you'll have a chance to actually look at it before the meeting and have some time to review it.
So we'll anticipate seeing all three scopes on the next meeting.
Right. And then all three will be at the May meeting.
Great.
And then June
Zachary?
30%.
Great.
Hey, it's Zach. We might have skipped from item 8 to 10. So
Oops.
we might have skipped 9 there.
Well, shoot, I did.
Wondering about that.
Yeah. We'll go back for Mr. Wolves.
I'm actually gonna cover the presentation this time since Mr. Wolves is on vacation.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, do you want to continue with item 10 and then go back to item 9?
Okay.
Are there any other comments from members or requests for future agenda items? No. Okay, so we'll close item 10 and we'll go back to item 9. Review and discussion of the Truckee Meadows Flood Management Authority draft Board of Directors meeting agenda for Friday, April 10th. Marty, you have the floor.
All right, so here is the draft agenda for Friday, April 10th. It's not a lot happening at this meeting, but some important things are happening. The tentative budget is being presented, and that is the main substance of the meeting, as well as the items in consent, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's a very short meeting.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Marty. Any comments or anybody that wants to speak to the item? Seeing none. All right, moving on to item 11. Public comment. During this comment period, any person is invited to speak on any topic that is not listed as an action item on this agenda. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on a future agenda. Comment must be made as described above and is limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment?
Seeing none.
I'm seeing none. All right. So we'll close that item and move on to item 12, and that is adjournment. We will adjourn at 10:56 a.m. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.